Not yet. No? Ready? Interpretation is okay now, right? Okay.
Yes, Sayadaw, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you.
Yeah, Sayadaw, may I have Sayadaw permissions to interpret for Sayadaw in this talk? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
You know, ready? Ready now. Okay, we can start now, right? Okay, we will pay homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, today we will continue Savana Chitasika, beautiful mental factors again. So we have to start with Passaddhi. The characteristics of Passaddhi is calmness and serenity. So actually in your daily life also you have experienced Passaddhi already. Calmness, quietness, peacefulness. But mostly we translate as a tranquility. Or we can also say mentally quiet. Then we can also understand other like very still and peaceful. Stillness or peacefulness. This is the nature of Passaddhi. So if we say easier way, that is the opposite of uddhacca, restlessness. Okay, you can also experience restlessness every day, right? Your mind will run away, knowing many different objects. Then this is called restlessness. The Passaddhi is the opposite of restlessness. Now we have two different types of Passaddhi. Kaya Passaddhi, I mean bodily tranquility. Citta Passaddhi, mental or tranquility, mental tranquility. So our body also calm, quiet. Mind also calm and quiet. Body also feel peace. Mind also, mentally also we feel peace. That is called Passaddhi. Now we have to move the next one. The function is the pacifying mental agitation and disturbance. Yeah, this is also one thing. Something it will give up or it will pacify restlessness. So bodily or mentally we will have calmness and quietness. This is the nature of Passaddhi, tranquility. The manifestation is the coolness and peacefulness of mind. Sita bhava in Pali. Sita means cool or calm. Then the last one, the Brahmanic cause is a calm and composed mental state. So that means when we have bodily and mentally calm and peaceful, right, this is called Passaddhi, briefly. So in your daily life, when you are practicing, you can also experience Passaddhi. Mind become very calm and quiet, body become very still, like a rock, you don't need to move. Even you don't need to open your eyes. When you have that kind of quietness, that's called Passaddhi. Then again, we have to move the next one. The characteristics of Lahuta is a freedom from sluggishness and inertia. So here we just use Lahuta in Pali, but we can also understand it like a lightness or agility of mind and mental factors. It's the opposite of sloth and torpor, Tinamita. So you can also practically experience when you have Tinamita, your body becomes heavy. Right? Normally, we can open our eyes easily. When we have Tinamita, we're going to open our eyes easily. Not only that, body also become very dull or sluggish. Body become very heavy. So that is why when we have Lahuta, no more sluggishness, no more heaviness. Body become very fresh, very light. You can also understand very easy one, like previously we talked about Tinamita, right? Sloth and torpor. Then we also have already explained something about Lahuta. We also have like an active mind in the middle process, or keep the mind continuous a lot. So in this kind of case, that means we don't have any drowsiness or any heaviness. This is the nature of Lahuta. The function is to counteract heaviness, lethargy. So we have already mentioned lightness means, of course, this is the opposite of heaviness, right? Now manifestation. The manifestation is agility and non-sluggishness of mind. He also means adandata. Danda means very heavy, right? Or sluggish. But here adanda means no sluggishness. This is also the nature of Lahuta. The prosemic cause is a refined mental state free from dullness. This also, we can say, kaya citta, right? Bodily and mentally. The Lahuta also can be bodily and mentally both. Kaya Lahuta, Citta Lahuta. So we can also understand a few more things here. These mental factors will arise together with wholesome mind and beautiful mind. So sometime after doing something very good, for example, we have done some dana. Whenever we recall, we feel fresh, we can feel happy, our body becomes very light. Similarly, after undertaking precept very strictly, seriously, respectfully, whenever we recall, we can feel happy, lightness. This kind of thing also can be. Now practically when you are meditating, you can also feel your body is very light, floating. Even you don't feel your body is touching on the ground. That kind of thing also can happen. This also by the power of concentration. So Lahuta can be experienced every time when we are practicing very well. Then previously, Passaddhi and Lahuta, these two are very effective for meditators. Then a few years ago, one of the medical doctor, he's actually in the university. He's a faculty of painkiller. Then he's come and discuss something about meditation. Is it possible to overcome pain by meditating? Then At the time, I just replying very simply, if we have very strong tranquility, it is possible to overcome the pain. This also really happened. Then at the time of the Buddha also, there are many bhikkhu. They have very strong morality, or they also feel a lot of pain. Then when they can get tranquility, they can overcome pain. They can meditate better. There are also many other stories in Sri Lanka. One of the Mahathera, he was very seriously sick. So since it's so serious, too much painful, he's groaning. Unluckily, the king came and paid respect to him. When he hearing the Mahathera groaning, he wished to give up. He wished to go back. There was an attendant bhikkhu. Now the king said, the king is coming to see you. But when hearing your sound of groaning, he is going to leave. Then many people also gathering here, they thought you are an arhat. Actually, he was not an arhat. Then he just asked his attendants to have him sit in. Then he started recollecting his morality. Actually, I have already given this order before, a few days ago. When recollecting his own virtues, pamoja arises. Pamoja means delight. When pamoja becomes stronger, it produces piti, rapture. Then rapture becomes stronger, it will produce tranquility. Now you guys also have tranquility, right? So that means he had very strong rapture and tranquility. Then he could overcome the pain. He could ignore the pain. After that, he could practice vipassana continuously. He could attain arhatship on the spot. Then Mahathera asked, okay, let the king wait for a while. Then, and he got ready. After that, he allowed the king to come back and pay homage. When seeing the appearance of Mahathera, the king also could understand the Mahathera may have some attainment. Then he asked how he had done to achieve that kind of things. He just explained the process he did. Okay, briefly, when we have very strong tranquility and very strong lightness, we can also overcome pain. From time to time, when we read stories, especially the story of Mahathera, even at the time of the Buddha, you may have known some Pali words, Vedana Vikam Bhitava, overcoming pain or removing pain. Actually, in this kind of case, by the power of tranquility or rapture, we just ignore the pain and keep practicing other meditation subjects. So I just talk about that kind of this story to that physical doctor. Actually, he's actually a professor in the university. Anyway, the main thing is, when we have passaddhi, tranquility, and lahuta, lightness, then we feel free, we feel more comfortable. Now we should move to the next one. The characteristics of mudita is pliancy and adaptability. Okay, here we can also understand mudita as flexibility or gentleness or softness of the mind. Okay, one more thing here. Sometimes we say we have softness, right? So that means you can also imagine mana. Mana is a very gross, right? Hard materiality, a hard mentality. I have already mentioned before, like a snake swallowing an iron bar. Not very flexible. When we have a mudita, flexibility, we don't have mana. And on the next one, the function is to eliminate rigidity and stubbornness. Rigidity means, here we can also say like a ditthi and mana, both. So that means, from time to time, people also ask, what does it mean, humble? Right? So when we have mudita, we are humble. If we don't have mudita, we will be stubborn, arrogant. So this is the nature of mudita. So we have already mentioned anything about mana before. When we are talking about unwholesome mental factors. Not only that, we also have already talked about ditthi, wrong view. So when we have mudita, our mind will be flexible. At the same time, we can also eliminate wrong view and mana. The another thing is respect towards others. Right? That means when we have a mudita, we may show respect to virtuous people, good people. So that means as long as somebody is worthy of respect, we will show respect. This is also the nature of mudita. So there will be some exception, right? That although somebody is very old but not very virtuous, we may not respect. Then they are also older, they are also virtuous, we may show respect. Although we say virtuous, it can be many other qualities. For example, confidence, saddha. One who has a very strong saddha, his behavior will be very nice, acceptable behavior, we may respect. Similarly, if somebody has very strong knowledge, or if somebody is knowledgeable, especially Dhamma knowledge, we may respect. Not only that, there will be many other things. For example, generosity, charity. If somebody is very generous to share his properties with other people, of course, this is also one of the qualities. Okay, if we say briefly, if we met somebody who has a very strong virtues and also having many other qualities, we may show respect. So obviously our mana is a humble and a respect. Not only that, obedient. Mostly we have a many people, right? They are good talker. They don't want to talk a lot. They don't want to listen. Then sometimes we also have met many people. Even in my life, I have met many people. They come to ask some question. But when I have already answered, but they cannot satisfy. Sometimes they just trying to introduce how they are doing. Actually, they don't need my recommendation or my advice. They just need my approval. If I don't approve, they are not very happy. That means not good listener. That means not obedient, disobedient. If somebody is disobedient, we cannot advise or we cannot guide. If we can guide, of course they will improve. If they don't accept any guidance or any advice or any Dhamma, that means no Mudita. So when they have this kind of mana, there's also a blockage. When we have Mudita, this is the way to improvement. Okay, one more thing here I should introduce. Although we say flexibility or adaptability, actually in this case, we must understand only for wholesome. If something is better, or maybe it will be stronger, for example, it also wholesome, his mind will be flexible. If unwholesome, it's not flexible. Right? So that means adaptability, when we are doing unwholesome, that's not really called mudita. Adaptability or flexibility, when we are doing good things, this is really called mudita. So when we have mudita, we can live in the community harmoniously. If we don't have mudita, we cannot live in the community harmoniously. Another one is a manifestation. The manifestation is receptivity or responsiveness to wholesome objects. That's why here I always say only for wholesome. Responsiveness or receptivity. So when we are going to do unwholesome deeds, right, we don't have this kind of thing, right? We should not have this kind of adaptability or receptivity. And now we have the last one. The prosemic cause is a mental state free from wrong view and conceit. So you can also understand the nature of wrong view. How we talked about it before, right? After listening wrong view very long time, we think it's a right, unchangeable. Finally it becomes persistent wrong view. Now modern society, we can also have English word, right? Brainwash. Although the information is wrong, brainwashed by somebody, they think it's right. Okay, now we have to move the next one. The characteristics of kamanyata is a readiness or fitness for activities. Here we say kamanyata. Kamanyata means readiness. We can also say workable. Okay, for your understanding, we should say easier one. Then we have clay, right? The clay is soft. Then we can mold, we can make anything. We can make a pot, we can also make a twine, anything. When the clay is very hot, we cannot do anything. That's why kamanyata means workable. This is the nature of Kamanyata. Then, if we have Kamanyata, then our mind will be free from sensual desire, Kamachanda. This is the opposite of Kamachanda. So you can also imagine, when we have Kamachanda, our mind is not ready to accept something, right? Even meditation, you can practically know. When we have hindrances or defilements, mind is not ready. If my mind is not yet ready, we pressure more and more. The more you struggle, the more you have a thought. So that means we must make our mind ready, calm down, peaceful, relax well. Otherwise, many thoughts come. Sometimes we also know the object, we all have background thoughts. When it becomes habit, it's very serious. We cannot improve easily. Now we can also understand another thing. That one is ill will. Ill will also dosa, right? A kind of dosa. We have already mentioned the nature of dosa before. It's very gross, very harsh. Then also it's disturbing people, disturbing ourselves. But when we have a Kamanyata, no dosa. We can also understand the opposite way. When we have dosa, no Kamanyata. When we have Kamachanda, sensual desire, no Kamanyata. Okay, we also have to say a few more things about it. That is about doubt. We may have many different types of doubt. But practically, when you are practicing Anapanasati, you may have many doubt about your own practice. Right? For example, sometimes you may get confused. Am I knowing in-breath or out-breath? Am I knowing the touching points or breathing? Right? Any type of doubt. When we have doubt, no Kamanyata. Our minds are not ready. Then again, we also have many other disturbances in our mind. When there's some disturbance in our minds are not ready. So we have to make our mind ready, workable, soft. Then it will be easier, right? So we also have one simile. This is about the gold, refined gold. That means the gold is soft, right? If the gold is soft, we can easily shape into any ornament. It can be bracelets, earrings, necklace, anything. So I had mentioned before, like a clay. So when our mind becomes workable, we can also say easier another way. That means we can balance everything. We are not disturbing any hindrances. At the time, our mind is ready. That's why from time to time, I also talk to meditator. In the very beginning, you should relax your mind by doing some chanting, Buddha-nusati or metta for sometimes. When mind becomes calm and peaceful, get start focusing on the breathing. It's easier for improvement. Otherwise, there will be excessive effort. Big challenge in the very beginning. Mostly many of meditators, the first maybe around 10 minutes will be a big challenge. After 10 minutes, then we can find the solution sometimes. Then we can relax, we can calm down, and then we have better concentration. There will be many other conditions also. Although we try half an hour, we cannot calm down. Possible. Although we try 1 hour, we cannot calm down. This is also possible. It depends on kamanyata. When we have some disturbance, it can be hindrances, it also can be external. Then mind is not ready. Now the function is to eliminate obstacle to mental and physical agility. So here we should say obstacle. We can also understand like a hindrances. If we can eliminate or overcome hindrances, we can improve. We may have kamanyata. Manifestation is a smooth execution of mental process, sampati. Then the prosemic cause is a prepared and adaptable mental state. That means ready, right? Our minds are ready. These are the nature of kamanyata. When we have kamanyata, then we can do everything easily and smoothly. If our mind is not ready, not very smooth. Actually, there are many qualities of the mind. When we are going to meditate, one of them is kamanyata, readiness, or workable. Then when our minds are ready, everything will be smooth. Mind is not ready, we cannot do anything smoothly. Now we should move to the next one. The characteristics of pagunyata is skillfulness or expertise in action. Okay, here we should say skillfulness. We can also say proficiency. We can also say mastery in doing wholesome deed. Actually, in this case, pagunami, mastery, long time practice. We can also say well-trained mind or refined quality of mind. This is called pagunyata. Okay, practically, I also say many times here, you must be skillful, right? So if you are skillful, how to maintain? Sure, you can improve naturally. If you are skillful, how to be natural? You can improve. Right? Many times people also ask this kind of question, right? Focus on the natural breath. What do you mean natural breath? How should I answer? Even in this retreat, I don't know how many people have already asked this kind of question. Every day we are breathing, this is the natural. Right? So when we are going to meditate, we have to breathe the same. Not much changing. Only awareness we need. Right? Sometimes people have this kind of thing, right? Skill. So if we are skillful, we can do effectively. I don't know how you study English, right? When I study English, the first 2 months, hectic. to speak one sentence, right? I feel headache. When somebody, that means I have to recall vocabulary, I have to recall sentence patterns, I have to recall tenses, right? Then sometimes the tense I use is not correct. So not very skillful yet, very slow, right? Now also many people, now even in this retreat, right? Many people can speak English, but they don't speak. No? Many Vietnamese also can speak English, but they don't speak. Many Nepalese also can speak English, but they don't speak. Right? Of course, in the very beginning, it will be slow. Right? We're not very familiar. Also, our tone is not correct. Right? This is also normal. When we become skillful, it will be smooth. We can speak faster. Okay, so similarly now, in Nepal, you also use motorbike. As many Vietnamese here, if you don't know how to ride motorbike, you cannot live in Vietnam, right? You are not Vietnamese. Right? Vietnam is a motorbike city, motorbike country. Okay, that means, I don't know how you learn. In the very beginning, when you start riding motorbike, not very smooth, right? But gradually, after riding many times, you become skillful. So here, in the same way, Pakunyata, after a long time practice, we are skilled. We are skillful. So if we are skillful, then whatever thing we do, it will be very effective. For example, dana. It depends on what kind of dana you are going to do, right? For example, if you are going to do food dana, you must be very strong in the kitchen. Right? You must expert how to cook, what to cook. If you don't know how to cook, then we must go to the restaurant. Right? Similarly, morality, we need skill. If we are skillful, we can undertake precepts effectively. For example, 5 precepts. We have to avoid doing wrong. After a long time experience, we come to know how to avoid. Right? For example, mosquito. Right? Very easy, right? Mosquito. Very disturbing. Everywhere. So, if we don't think about morality, very easy, no? One strike, finish, pranadipata. Right? Then, if we are very mindful, or if we are very skillful, we will know how to fight mosquito. Right? We have many mosquito repellent. Then some brands are very, very strong. It can last 8 hours. I don't know what kind of product you are using in Nepal and Vietnam. Right? I remember in Europe, Germany products have used in Europe for the first time. It lasts 8 hours. Just applying only the face, somewhere the cheeks and arms, right? Meditate normally 8 hours, no disturbance. Okay, the main thing is sila. We need skill how to avoid Right? How to make our sila stronger? It comes from experiences. It depends on awareness also. Okay, now practically you are experiencing meditation. In meditation also, we need skill. If we are not very skillful, we cannot see the nimitta. After seeing the nimitta also, if you are not very skillful, you cannot attain jhana. If you attain jhana also, if you are not very skillful, you cannot maintain very long time. This is about meditation. What about earning money? You need skill, right? Without skill, you cannot earn money also. So sometimes we also have confidence, and we also have skill, we also have firm determination, right, at the same time. Then we can work better. Okay, the opposite of pagunyata is wrong decision. In Bali we call miccha dimokha. If we have pagunyata, we have right decision. Not only that, we can also have good choice. We also have confidence in the truth. We also have very excellent in practice. This is the nature of pagunyata. That the function is to eradicate unskillfulness and mental stagnation. So this is also opposite of skillfulness, right? That means unskillfulness. We can eradicate unskillfulness. The manifestation is the absence of inefficiency or imperfection. So that means if we are skillful, we become perfect, right? You may have already known the English proverb, practice makes perfect. If we are practicing, it will make us perfect, right? The primary cause is a well-trained and refined mental state. This is the nature of pagunyata. Okay, now we have a few more. The characteristics of ujjhagata is uprightness and integrity. Okay, here I should elaborate a few more things about ujjhagata. Uprightness or straightforward. So if we go back to very well-known sutta, Karaniya Metta Sutta, then you may have already known this Pali words, Sakko ujjuja sujuja. Uju, suju. Straight, or upright, or very upright. So we can also understand ujjhagata is like a righteousness. Then we can also say honesty, sincerity, and moral integrity. This is the call ujjhagata. Then we have already talked about maya, concealing one's own faults. Right? This is called maya. Then, in the case of ujjhagata, then we may not conceal our weakness. Okay, here a few more things we have to understand. According to Karaniya Metta Sutta, Ujju means bodily and bhavali, we have honesty. If we are honest bodily and bhavali, this is the Ujju, straight, upright. What about mentally? Sometimes we don't speak as we feel. Right? Mentally, we in our mind we keep something, but we speak out another. In the case of Suju, that means bodily, verbally, mentally. We must be sincere and honest. This is the nature of Ujukata. In the case of Maya, that means we can see our faults, we also pretend to be better. Actually, we are not that good. Or sometimes we also translate like a hypocrisy or pretension. Now this is Satya. Okay, Satya is the most serious. It kind of deceiving. Okay, here I should say a few more things about Satya, right? Previously, also have already mentioned Wholesome mental state before. Satya means not having faith. We pretend to show people we have faith. Right? Not true, right? Then, in modern community, we can find many people like this, right? Come into the monastery, do safi, post to the social media. People may say, oh, she is very religious, he is very religious, but actually just for show. Right? Then similarly, there are many other conditions. For example, morality. Being immoral, but pretend to be moral. Similarly, not well concentrated, but pretending to have concentration. Not having wisdom, pretending to be wise. Similarly, Dhamma knowledge. Not having Dhamma knowledge, then pretending to have Dhamma knowledge. Do you remember I asked a question when we talked about Maya Satya before? Can you buy a certificate in Nepal? Can you buy a certificate in Vietnam? For example, you cannot study MA, PhD, but you buy a certificate just for show. You may have this one, right? Even very well-developed country, they have this kind of problem. In Myanmar also we have. Now I'm not sure, right? In our school time, there are some bhikkhu, Dhamma talker, very famous Dhamma talker. But you can imagine Dhamma talker have to go to many different places for Dhamma talk. He may not have time to study, but he passed Dhammacharya. Then everybody knows he buying the certificate. Right? This is possible. If country is a corruption, very easy. Right? Then, not only that, actually, there are many other similar cases. They pretend that they have this kind of degree, that kind of degree, this kind of knowledge, that kind of knowledge, this kind of skill, that kind of skill, this kind of attainment, that kind of attainment. Not having, they just declare. Like many arhat in our modern society, right? Many arhat with bank accounts, right? Many arhat with helicopter, aeroplane. Right? You may have seen many arhat, right? I don't know how many arhat you have seen in Nepal. In Vietnam also you may have seen some arhat, maybe. In Myanmar, many arhat with bank accounts. Very rich arhats. People also believe. You can also imagine, this is actually satya, cheating people. Not having attainment, they pretend they have attained that kind of things for their own profit. This is the nature of satya. Okay, here are a few things we have to explain. Ujjhagata prevents like a dishonest tendency and also supports development of pure and direct, transparent mind. This also, right, special quality we can develop. The function is to remove deception and hypocrisy. When we have Ujjhagata, no more deception, no more hypocrisy. We can eliminate or we can remove. The manifestation is moral strictness and sincerity. Then finally, we have the prosemic cause. It's a truthful and honest mental state. This is the nature of Ujjhagata. So far we have finished 19 beautiful mental factors. Today we start Passaddhi, tranquility. It can be body and mind. Kaya Passaddhi, Citta Passaddhi. See, now I just mentioned only 6 pairs. All the 6 have 2 parts. Now, okay, today, now the last one, Ujjhagata, right? We also Kayu Ujjhagata, Citta Ujjhagata. So when we have Ujjhagata, or this quality, then we are improving. So yesterday also we have already mentioned Saddha, Sati, Hiri, Uttapa, and beautiful mental factors. Today also we continue talking about beautiful mental factors. So if we have all these beautiful mental factors, we are improving. So if we have many unwholesome mental factors, we are declining. And we have to know this too. So I have already mentioned, these are beautiful mental factors. They were associated with beautiful consciousnesses. For example, we have sensuous pure, wholesome consciousnesses. Then they were associated with these beautiful mental factors. Then we also have a jhana. Every jhana we associate with these beautiful mental factors. So that means whenever jhana arises, whatever jhana arises, these mental factors will arise together with jhana. Not only that, when we are practicing vipassana, these mental factors will arise. Then when we attain path and fruition knowledge, these beautiful mental factors will arise together with path knowledge and fruition knowledge. So whenever we are doing something good, they will arise. So to achieve all these qualities, to make all these qualities stronger and stronger, we also have to practice. There are many ways to develop mental qualities, right? The main thing is making a new habit of training mind. If we have habits, we can practice well. We can improve well. Okay, today I will stop here. It will be short, right? Then I should say briefly, dana, if we are skillful, if we have all these beautiful mental factors, it will affect the dana, stronger dana, right? Similarly, sila, if we have all the beautiful mental factors, stronger beautiful mental factors, it will be stronger sila. Similarly, meditation, bhavana, if we have all these beautiful mental factors, very strong and powerful mental factors, it will be stronger meditation. May you all be able to practice 3 trainings, and may you all be able to realize final cessation and not suffering. Okay.
So now there is question on Zoom. So now please may I ask, Nibbana, recollection of the Nibbana is how to do this? How to do the recollection of the Nibbana?
Actually, in our previous introduction, I have already mentioned, right? It depends on personality. For example, your mind always inclined to attain Nibbana. It's possible. Your mind inclined to Nibbana most of the time, right? It's possible. If your mind does not incline to Nibbana, it's impossible. For example, right? No raga. In Nibbana, there's no raga, right? We can also recall the quality of Nibbana, there's no raga. Then we also like a Mata Nimadana. Mata Nimadana means eliminating intoxicant or infatuation of mind. That means a kind of craziness, a kind of mana, right? So that means there's no mana in Nibbana. Okay, if we say briefly, we can also recall all the defilements. There's none of defilements in Nibbana. That's why it's not that easy. Okay, one more thing. Inclination. Right? Inclination toward Nibbana. Then from time to time I also ask a question to meditator. Do you really want to attain Nibbana? How would you answer? You may say yes, right? Do you want to earn money? You may say yes, right? Then which one do you prefer, Nibbana or money? Different answer maybe, right? Some people may answer, I prefer Nibbana. Right? But when we have another question, how do you spend your time? Do you spend your time to attain Nibbana or to earn money? That means you must be diligent enough to attain Nibbana. you are very diligent in earning money. Right? That means our mind will incline to Nibbana more. So one day, 24 hours, how many hours do you spend to attain Nibbana? If you spend your time, most of your time to attain Nibbana, you can do it. You can do regulation of peace, Nibbana, right?
Dạ thưa Sayadaw, khi mới bắt đầu thiền mà các suy nghĩ trong đầu mình nó khởi lên á, nhưng mà cái tâm mình nó vẫn nhận biết được cái hơi thở, thì đó có được coi là phóng dật không ạ?
Sayadaw, when we start to meditate, although we still focus on the breath, know the breath, but there are also thinkings arise. So in this case, can we say that this state of mind Uddhacca?
Okay, sure. That means you know two objects simultaneously. You also know the breathing, you also have background thoughts. Right? If that kind of thing happens for some time, it doesn't matter. When it becomes habit, very difficult to change. So when you have this kind of problem, mostly I just recommend to change object for sometimes. Like Buddhanusati or Metta or chanting something. When you can cut the thoughts totally, come back to the breathing. Okay? Okay now? No more question? The Zoom?
Today very less.
Ah, very easy, eh? Okay.
Manami Sayadaw, are immoral bhikkhus still count as sangha?
Count as a sangha. Okay. If
Are immoral bhikkhus still count as sangha?
Okay, sure. Immoral means there will be many different definitions of immoral, right? According to Vinaya, if we say immoral, or in Bali we call dusila, right? That means he has already committed parajika, right? But if we just break minor rules knowingly, then we will say allergy, shameless. Okay? When we say sangha, for example, parajika bhikkhu, he is not allowed to join any sangha transaction, sangha activity. For example, we do patimokha. If we know some bhikkhu had already committed parajika, he is not allowed to join patimokha. He is not count as a sangha. Not only that, we may have many other sangha activities. If we know he is immoral, he has already committed parajika, he is not allowed to join any sangha activities. He is not count as a sangha, right? Now, for about dana or something, devotee have strong faith in dana, right? So in this case, if there's no other bhikkhu, right? You just pay attention to moral bhikkhu or arhat. So that means representative of sangha, you offer something. Then in this case, it's also acceptable, also possible. Okay? Okay.
Vandami Sayadaw. Sayadaw, I want just to ask male and female birth. Is it also result of karma, male and female?
Male and female?
So birth of male and female. It's a cause of karma.
Karma produce, sure. Okay. Such mentality is a karma produce. right? Actually, not only that, actually eyes, ear, nose, tongue, all the sins are karma produced. That's why we had different eyes, right? Different eyesight, different ear, right? The different sensitivity of ear also, right? All are produced by karma, including sex materialities. Okay?
Another question on Zoom, Sayadaw.
Okay.
Nowadays, there are many different vipassana meditation traditions practiced at various meditation centers in Myanmar. So how can a meditator find a method that is suitable for themselves? Thank you, Sayadaw.
I don't know how people decide suitable or unsuitable. Right? So mostly, okay, as far as I know so far, there are some people, if they like, they think it's suitable. If they dislike, they think it's unsuitable. Actually, in the case of meditation, suitable or unsuitable does not come from like and dislike. It depends on how effective it is. So Buddha has already mentioned different temperaments and then different meditation subjects. Right? If we can know what's our temperament, we can choose it. If we don't know what's our temperament, no choice. Right? So that means, according to Buddhist tradition, different temperament have different meditation subject already. That's why traditional meditation cannot make suitable or unsuitable. It just comes from like and dislike. Most people like this is easier, this is shortcut, more effective. They like this kind of method. It's something difficult, they avoid. Right? So that means they just want to get immediate result. They just want to attain Nibbana in short way. Okay, then?
Vandami Sayadaw, according to the Pali text, is there any record saying that the Arahant will still scold people? And
Scold people.
yes, scold people. Will an Arahant scold people? Because there is a bhikkhu. Every time he scold other people, then he will quote this story of Arahant scolding people. And he says, I just used my mouth, my mind didn't change.
Actually, in this case, habitual or hobby is unchangeable. Okay, that means it doesn't mean Alaskans scold people like this, right? Because in the story he mentioned is one of the Arhats. He has a bad temper. In many lives, he was born in very high class. Then he didn't show anybody. He didn't respect anybody. At the late, when he says somebody, right? Even he say normally, he will say, "Hey, fool." Yeah, that kind of usage, right? In this case, we cannot say scolding, using abusive words. Right? That means not very polite. Scolding is a different meaning. In the case of scolding, tone also very high. Right? But in his case, it's not scolding, using abusive words. Because a long time habit. That's why if somebody say, I have to scold, this is some misunderstanding. Right?
Vandami Sayadaw, dạ con muốn hỏi về Kaya Kamanyata và Chitta Kamanyata. Đó là khi cái tâm của mình sẵn sàng chịu khó, chịu cực một chút, nóng một chút cũng được, lạnh một chút cũng được, nắng mưa cũng được. Nhưng mà cái thân của mình nó không cho phép, Dù nắng quá, nóng quá hay là mưa gió gì mình cũng bị bệnh. Như vậy là do cái tâm mình không đủ mạnh mẽ hay là do sắc thân của mình nó không có cái thích nghi được ạ?
So now she asked about Kaya Kamanyata and Chitta Kamanyata. Sometimes the mind is ready to adapt, to accept whatever condition, like too hot, too cold. But although the mind ready to accept, to bear, but the body do not allow. The body reacts like sickness, getting worse and getting sick. So in this case, can we say it's because of the mind is not strong enough?
Actually, in this case, not because of mind is not strong enough, body is not strong enough. Right? Actually, we have many conditions of kanti, right? So for example, when our body is very strong, body can bear heat or cold or hunger or thirst or anything. Body is strong. If body is weak, even very minor things will make problem, right? So in this case, body is not strong enough, although your mind is strong. Right? Then, any other question? In the Zoom? No more? Okay. Question are there? At the end?
Sayadaw.
Okay.
I think I can understand how the mental factors arise when we practice meditation. Through concentration, the mental factors, the beautiful one, can arise. My question is for mental factors that arise from sadha, how does that happen?
For example, arise for?
From sadha. Sadha.
Sada.
Yeah. By looking at Buddha statue or Buddha relics or meeting virtuous people.
Okay.
Those happy feelings arise. How do they happen?
Okay. The one more thing, right? Although we say habitually arise, it depends on how strong your knowledge also. Right? For example, when seeing Buddha statue, you may feel happy. It depends on how you learn Buddhism. Right? Long time learning will make you happy. Long time practice will make you happy. So that means for about saddha or anything, actually there are many other supporting causes of saddha. For example, good association, mentally, our mind also mentally inclined to saddha, confidence, we would achieve confidence, right? So based on all supporting conditions, there will be different types of mental quality. So we can say everything is natural, but it depends on practice also. For example, in Indonesia, you have many young generation. They also come to the monastery. They also do dana. Right? That some of the kids, they know how to offer. Although they are like only 5 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old, they know how to offer. Because their parents train them. Right? There are some people, they are very far from monastery. Although they are 10 years old, 11 years old, they will be scared. Minds are not ready. Right? It depends on environment and in practice. There can be different conditions. Okay? Then, any other thing?
Thank you, Sayadaw.
Okay.
I have been practicing Anapanasati, and I realized that whatever I practice much, then it's really hard to get sleep at night. When I close my eyes at that relaxing state, when going to sleep, then mostly I will see dim light, although I don't focus on the breath, Also, if I can sleep, then it is not as long as before, and I feel very awakened after waking up in the very early morning. Can Sayadaw give me some advices, please? Thank you, Sayadaw.
Actually, when you see the light, the biggest problem is using your eyes to see the light. It will be more disturbance. So when you start seeing the light, don't think about your eyes or don't use your eyes to see the breath or to see the light. You must use your mind to know the breath or to feel the breath. It will be more effective. Otherwise, you cannot sleep well. Okay.
Thưa Bhante là trong cái cặp là tịnh thân, tịnh tâm, khinh thân, khinh tâm vân vân đấy, thì có những người giảng là cái chữ kaya đó hiểu nó là tâm sở chứ không phải thân vật lý. Thì bây giờ mình hiểu như thế nào là đúng ạ?
Sayadaw, just now Sayadaw taught 6 pairs of Pasadi, Lahuta, etc. And there's some Dhamma teacher said that on is Cetasika, means it's purely the mind. Mind is not related to body. So she would like to clarify this.
Okay. There will be different approach. If we study Abhidhamma, it will mention Cetasika and mind. For example, Kayu Chukata, right? This is called actually mental body. Right? That means Ujjagala means that this uprightness of mental body, right? So in this kind of case, we can say mental factors. Cetu Chukata, uprightness of consciousness. We have that kind of explanation. But at the same time, it also affects the body. Because if there's a mind, there's also mind-produced materialities. That's why it can affect the body, right? Okay.
Thank you, Bhante.
Any question now? And Zoom. Some question on the Zoom.
Sayadaw, he heard some teachers say a practitioner doesn't need to read too many books. He just need to practice every day on mindfulness. It will be better than reading books, have more merits than reading books, because by reading you may have more doubts.
Sure.
Is that correct?
Sure. I don't recommend reading many books when you are meditating. Right? Sometimes, okay, one more thing, right? If you just read like a Visuddhimagga or Samhita or like original text, like Samnikaya, for the one day, one sutta, two sutta, in this case, not that serious. The one more thing, sometimes we don't know how to analyze. Then we may get confused. This is one thing, right? Another thing is written by scholar or teacher, right? Some meditation teacher, they just write as they experience. Then it misleads people. For example, nimitta. That means when you read some manual written by some teacher, it will mention like a smoke, for example. Even knowing seeing, it mentions like a smoke, cloud, this kind of thing, right? This is just general. We can also find similar statement in Visuddhimagga. This is general, right? So, if we see nimitta, like for example, red color, then teacher will write down, right? Or nimitta is a red color. But the nimitta you see is a white color. You will get confused. So that means if somebody writes based on their own experience, don't read. If they write based on Pali Canon and meditation, some commentary and a sub-commentary, it will be much better for your knowledge, more reliable. Okay?
वन्दना स्यारो यो सुत्त पाठ गरेर चाहिँ कस्तो किसिमको फाइदा हुन्छ हामीलाई कसरी पार्मीको लागि चाहिँ कसरी हुन्छ होला जस्तै पठान पाठ गरेर चाहिँ प्रज्ञाको लागि हेतु हुन्छ भनेर सुनिएको थियो त्यस्तै यो बारेमा चाहिँ क्लियर गरिदिनु न
So what are the benefits of memorizing and reciting suttas in Pali? What benefits we get in our practice to liberation?
At least, when you have a lot of restlessness, you can do chanting. This is more practical, right? Okay, another thing. If you remember many things, you also know how to do and what to do. You also know what you need. Okay, I should say Karaniya Metta Sutta, right? I don't remember in which year I start talking about Karaniya Metta Sutta in Nepal. Very early actually. Maybe, I think around 2010 or something. Very early I talk about Karaniya Metta Sutta. Mostly many of foreign meditators in Nepal, they don't memorize Karaniya Metta Sutta. Even they don't attend to evening chant. They don't attend morning chant also. Okay, the main thing is, when I talk about Karaniya Metta Sutta, they realize they should memorize Karaniya Metta Sutta. Because this was very rich in guidance, very rich material. Okay, I just give one example. Karaniya. What should be done? There's also obviously what akaraniya, what should not be done. So that means kusala and agusala very clear already. If you analyze kusala and agusala, you can also understand wrong action, wrong speech, wrong thought, right action, right speech, right thought. Right? You can also analyze many things, right? Similarly, atha kusala, ski and beneficial. Then there's also obviously what? Anatta kusala, ski and unbeneficial. So I have to just analyze every single Pali word like this. Then they know the value of Karaniya Metta Sutta and they memorize. After that, I long time I didn't talk about Karaniya Metta Sutta. I think around 2017 maybe, in Indonesia retreat, in Dhamma Indonesia. I talk about Karaniya Metta Sutta again in the retreat. After that, in Singapore, one more time, Karaniya Metta Sutta, for example, right? Because the main thing is, if we remember Sutta, if we can understand deeply, it will be very useful in our practice. Okay, this is an easier way. For example, Parita chanting for protection. Then this is also another way. Okay? If we summarize, it depends on how you use. It will be useful. Okay?
Vandami Sayadaw, by watching comedy film, then people will be very happy. This will be very helpful for body health condition. This is what type of mental states, because he heard that some cancer patients, by watching comedy films, then his illness get cured.
I don't know that kind of thing also. Right? Of course, happiness is one thing, right? So it depends on what kind of content in this movie also. right? Okay, some of the content will, for example, okay, in the case of funny things, right? There are two funny things, you know. If something is totally right, it's also funny. If something is totally wrong, it's also funny, right? For example, you know, when I say, if you may have seen many arhats with, right, bank account, for example, you may smile, right? This is wrong. That's why you smile, right? So you may have seen many arhats crying, laughing, right? For example, right? Then you may also smile when hearing that kind of thing. This is wrong. The main thing is, if something is totally wrong, it also make funny. Something is totally right, also it make funny. Yeah, so it depends. Okay, it depends on what kind of content in this movie. There can be different condition. I cannot say exactly, right?
Vietnamese Sayadaw, why is that in the sutta they always say Sihanada, means the role of lion? Why didn't it mention the role of tiger or elephant?
Okay. One more thing, right? Mostly we understand lion is the king of the forest. Okay? So that means lion is stronger than tiger or elephant. Because understand is the king of forest, right? That's why we just use this simile. Actually, that kind of thing is not that much important also, right? Lion roar or tiger roar, it doesn't matter. The main thing is brave. Okay? Simile is let me brave, bold utterance. This is called Siyanada.
So now there is question on Zoom. One person called a restaurant to order 10 chickens for a meal offering to the Sangha the next day. They say that they are motivated by wholesome intention in doing this, and that they do not have the intention to kill living beings, the 10 chickens, when placing the order. Therefore, they believe they are not breaking the precepts of killing. Is this correct, Sayadaw?
Actually, you have to confirm this one. Okay, if you are in Vietnam, you can also imagine what will happen. I have been to Vietnam market. You can get chicken alive, right? Even many housewives, right? When you are going to buy chicken, you were buying chicken alive. The weight of chicken alive and dead will be different. Chicken is alive is lighter. If chicken is dead, is heavier, right? That's why you also buying kilo, right? Anyway, the main thing is, if you order like this, then they will kill for bhikkhu. Then this is not allowable. Okay, one more case. Although you say you are safe or you don't kill anything, for bhikkhu side, they must confirm allowable or not. Right? Then if you order, elderly bhikkhu may suspect. So when we see, hear, and suspect, we must not eat it. That is why, in this kind of case, you must confirm they kill or not. Right? Actually, in Vietnam, you can also have many drying chicken. Right? in Vietnam, many dry chicken, right? As far as I know, whenever Vietnamese come to Nepal, they bring many dry chicken. Right? It will be more convenient. You don't need to order, right? Just buy dry chicken, finish. Okay, now we should stop here, right? Time passed already. Eda wadaja amehi sambadam bunya sambaram sabbe deva numodandu sabbe buddha numodandu sabbe satta numodandu sabba sambati siriya idame nyatinam hotu sukhita hondu nyatayo idame nyatinam hotu sukhita hondu nyatayo idame nyatinam hotu sukhita hondu nyatayo idame bunyam asawakaya waham hotu idame bunyam nibbanasa bhajayo hotu mama bunya bhagam sabba satanam bhajami te sabbe me samam bunya bhagam lavantu sadhu sadhu sadhu.